Good evening, Senator Kissel.
Good evening, Madam President. Great to see you up there, and I'm glad we're starting this on the earlier side. First of all, I want to commend Senator Winfield and Representative Staffstrom. As co-chairs of the Judiciary Committee, they opened the door and allowed Representative Rosa Rambimbis and myself to participate in negotiations, discussions, and I probably have never spent more hours on a bill that I'm going to ultimately vote no on. But I guess, Chairman Winfield, I'm guessing over 60 hours were spent putting this together. And you didn't have to listen to one word I said, but you guys did, and I think it's a better bill for that. I understand the historical context. I think sometimes people get over the top. I'm not saying you, Mr. Chair, but I'm not a racist. I'm not a bigot. I'm not insensitive to what's going on out there. But there are parts of this bill that I think just go a little bit too far. That's me. We're allowed to agree to disagree in this circle, and that's okay. A couple of very quick base questions, and then I'm just going to make a couple of statements. My first question is, it's my recollection that only one state thus far has done away with qualified immunity for law enforcement officers, and that's Colorado. Is that correct, through you, Madam President?
Thank you, Senator Kissel. Senator Winfield.
Yes, thank you, Madam President, and a little editorializing. I believe that after this bill passes, that would remain the same.
Thank you, Senator Kissel.
Thank you. And so 49 states, no change. One state, yes change. And it's my understanding that when Colorado did away with qualified immunity, they set a financial damages cap of $25,000 through you, Madam President. Is that correct?
Senator Winfield.
Thank you, Madam President, and yes, Madam President, through you.
Senator Kissel.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And it's my understanding that we have no financial threshold cap in this proposal that's before us this afternoon. Through you, Madam President.
Senator Winfield.
Yes, thank you, Madam President, and through you, Madam President, as we limit qualified immunity, governmental immunity, as it's specifically called in the bill, there is no cap, through you, Madam President.
Senator Kissel.
Thank you very much. And regarding some of the sections, duty to intervene, it's my understanding that in the last couple of weeks as this bill was being put together, there was a section put in there regarding corrections officers. I want to say it's section 44, but I'm just sort of reaching back. But is that section still in here where if one correction officer sees another correction officer and feels that they're using undue force, they have a duty to intervene? Through you, Madam President.
Senator Winfield.
Thank you, Madam President. I believe the Senator might be correct about the section. It is in the bill if the corrections officer witnesses what he or she knows to be excessive force or force that is illegal, they do have a duty to intervene and report. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Kissel.
Thank you very much. And I guess I'm just wondering, since essentially the bill is 99% about law enforcement, why that section was inserted regarding corrections officers. Only in that, I just think that in a correctional facility, it's a different environment. And so I guess one of my concerns is let's say you've got a CO and they're watching 20 inmates. Now they have a duty to intervene, and now who's keeping an eye on those 20 other inmates that may be in a hallway or something like that? Through you, Madam President.
Senator Winfield.
Through you, Madam President, if I were asked why we entered a lot of the things in this bill, given the number of hours that Senator Kissel said we had conversation, I wouldn't remember all of it, and I don't remember exactly at the point at which this entered the conversation. I will say, to the example that was provided, how the duty to intervene actually plays out requires that the officer actually witnessed it, had knowledge that it was excessive or illegal. So it doesn't require you to go looking for a type of behavior, and it also requires that you have knowledge that it's illegal or excessive. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Winfield. Senator Kissel.
Thank you very much. And through you, Madam President, Just a couple further questions. I believe when we were discussing the underlying bill regarding the duty to intervene, we were kicking around the idea as to whether a law enforcement officer that was not on duty would have some kind of duty to intervene. And it's my understanding is that they do not have a duty to intervene necessarily, but have a duty to make a report. Is that correct? Through
Senator Winfield.
Through you, Madam President, if we could stand at ease for a second, I want to make sure that I accurately represent that section of the bill.
The Senate will stand at ease.
So, thank you, Madam President.
Senator Winfield.
Yes, so forgive me for taking a moment, but in lines 1331 through 1358 is the language about the duty to intervene and report. In line 1343, and I will briefly read, it reads, any police officer who witnesses another police officer use what the witnessing officer objectively knows to be unreasonable, excessive, or illegal use of force is otherwise aware of such force by another police officer shall report as soon as practicable such use of force to the law enforcement unit that employs the police officer who used such force. So that would require the reporting of a use of force that the individual knows to be of those categories. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Kissel.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And if that officer that was off duty failed to report, would they be exposed to any kind of penalty, either civil or criminal? Through you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Winfield.
So there's potentially a penalty for failure to report, yes. Through you, Madam President.
Senator Kissel.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Is that penalty a charge of a criminal felony? Through you, Madam President.
Senator Winfield.
Yes, it is, and I'm looking for the section where that is as we speak, Madam President. But yes, is the answer to the question.
Senator Kissel.
Thank you very much. That concludes the questions that I have this afternoon. As I had indicated, we worked real hard on this bill. It's probably one of the most time-consuming pieces of proposed legislation that I've worked on in a lot of years. But I'm compelled to vote, I will be compelled to vote no this afternoon, or hopefully we will get to this before the sun goes down, for a couple of reasons. This actually will now make us go farther than the one other state that has taken away qualified immunity. And by the way, the key word there, in my view, is qualified. It's not just complete immunity, but that's Colorado, and they have a limitation. We're not going to have any limitations. Somebody could get sued for $100,000. Doesn't mean they're going to be victorious. The nature of these suits, though, because law enforcement officers can get sued now. Those 4 officers in Minneapolis, Minnesota, they're going to be charged with crimes. No two ways about it. Anybody who's been watching TV knows the 3 standby gentlemen, they were arrested subsequently, but the gentleman that had his knee on George Floyd's neck was arrested immediately. So people can get arrested. And my guess is that people could get sued in federal court, 1983 actions. And so there are mechanisms if the officer knew or reasonably should have known that they were violating the constitutional right of the individual that is harmed. Hopefully not killed, but in some instances killed. This will expose this potential liability on the civil side far wider. And my concern is that people may push law enforcement officers to the edge with the intent of finding a mechanism to file a lawsuit. And let's say I'm doing the lawsuit and there were 3 officers involved. Well, I'm going to have to sue all 3 of those officers because I don't know who did what, and I'm not going to leave somebody out. I'm going to want to depose one of the folks to make sure I get the facts straight. So you're going to maybe overcharge in the litigation to make sure that you are correct about who's ultimately at fault. And I understand as an attorney that you have a good faith duty if you're filing a lawsuit and other high standards. I get it, but I also get that there's litigation out there where folks are looking to get money. And if you examine some of these suits, many of them are ultimately settled. Now, people can say, well, the settlement's probably nuisance value. Well, you add up enough nuisance value suits, and all of a sudden, you've got a big issue. The other thing is, I think for the good officers, it puts them in a bind, because I don't want them to spare a lot of time thinking, am I going to get sued? A lot of times law enforcement officers don't make a ton of dough, and it's a dangerous job. You never know what you're going to run into on any given day. And so my concern is as this rolls out, it may cause law enforcement officers to decide, I don't want to risk my family or my house or the little assets that I have, so I'm going to retire, or I'm going to get a different kind of job. And again, people could say a parade of maybes, perhaps, but I think they're legitimate concerns that have been expressed to me by folks in law enforcement, from chiefs all the way down to young officers. On the duty to report, someone could be facing a felony, and so what if they misconstrued what they saw? I'm not sure if that report goes into the other officer's permanent file. So let's say it was an unfounded report. Is that going to damage the prospects for promotion and raises and movement for that other officer? I don't know how that's going to happen. I've heard from some of my law enforcement community that they're concerned with post being given so much unilateral authority especially regarding certification, because you may not get fired from your job, but if you lose your certification, you're not going to be able to work in Connecticut. So you may as well have lost your job. So that's a concern that they have as well. So I think there's a lot of good things in this bill, and we really tried to make it the best bill possible. And this should be no surprise here, because we had discussions the week before the House voted, and we were down to a few sections of the bill that caused concern. Regarding the Department of Corrections, I have 5 correctional facilities. It's a dangerous environment, one of which is Northern, the maximum security. That's a real hard job as well. And there's just times where they need to extricate an inmate from their cell or something like that, and it can be a violent situation. Now, do we want correctional officers to go over the top and use unreasonable force? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But if I'm a CO walking and I see something now all of a sudden I have to make that determination. I'm not saying that the goals of this bill aren't extraordinarily laudable. And I appreciate the fact that Chairman Winfield believes that we're in a very special moment in history and time in this state and in this country. And I think that they probably have the votes to pass this bill. And it's my understanding that last I checked, Governor Lamont said he would sign the bill. But I just wanted to express my concerns on the record this afternoon regarding those elements, the Department of Correction element, the reporting element, the duty to intervene element, and the exposure of the police officers to lawsuits, because I think ultimately there might be unintended consequences regarding a lot of those aspects, and I think that would be a shame. I think the vast majority of law enforcement officers in the state of Connecticut are really good, and they want to do the best thing that they can. And I just wanted that on the record, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kissel. Senator Winfield.